What up, YouTube? Welcome back. In this video, I want to do something that some people may feel is a bit odd, a bit weird, and maybe even a bit um, contradictory. And that is, to do a video defending the ProBlack Swirler. And the reason that I'm doing this video is because thinking back on my experience, the person who more or less, woke me up, or at least sparked the process of waking me up, was a more or less a ProBlack Swirler, or is a ProBlack Swirler. And she's on YouTube. She hasn't posted in a while, unfortunately. I usually I find like a lot of her videos to be interesting, even the ones that don't really necessarily deal with like the pro-black stuff. She kind of talks about like plus size community too. But I'll give you a little information about her, and then I'll go into my defense. Right. So she goes by the name of Tatiana Mercedes on YouTube. All right. She is, female, light-skinned black woman. Plus size, bisexual, perhaps pansexual. I don't know totally the definitions of that. She refers to herself as quote-unquote non-binary. I'm not quite sure what that means. So, there's a lot of intersectionality going on. And also, she is a swirler, and she has also talked about her experiences, and she has the video that talks about her experience and her thoughts on being like, can you be pro-black and be a swirler at the same time, right? Like, can you be pro-black but date white folks, right? So I think it depends on your definition of what pro-black is, and I don't think we have a solid definition of what pro-black is. Usually for me, I would say as a rule of thumb, it depends on the definition. I would say I would lean towards no, to be on the safe side. I would lean towards no. But, I suppose it is possible, to be a pro-black swirler, but dating interracially. But I do think it's a bit more difficult to be a pro-black swirler and date interracially. I do think that they have concerns about their people still. But the thing is, some people, it's like they kind of woke up in the middle of their relationship with like a non-black person, as what happened with Tatiana Mercedes, and she sort of spoke about that, and she's said like she woke up in the middle of their relationship. She was dating a white man, a white guy, and she said she was down to educate and pretty much, like as she put it, drag his ass to liberation. Right? She was down to do that, but he wasn't. He was more invested in white supremacy. Like, he wanted to stay in white supremacy. And she talked about like trying to convince him and trying to educate him, and still, like, despite learning all the things that she has learned about white supremacy, still harboring love and care for her white partner, and not wanting to just discard him, kind of wanting to take him with her on the journey that she was on. But it didn't go down like that. Some pro-black people may have like a different outcome or a different experience with that. Some pro-black people may have been able to take their non-black partners with them. Perhaps they do support them in what they do, at least on an individual level, as far as like pro-black stuff is concerned, quote-unquote pro-black stuff is concerned. But I will say that these people, pro-black swirlers, do not need to be leading any sort of a movement with black people at all. They don't need to be leading it. They can be a part of it behind the scenes, and they can support it, definitely. But they don't need to be leading it, because I think it sends a message that's mixed, like a mixed message. And I've spoken about this before, but basically it's sending a message that is sort of like odd, because it's like, well, is white supremacy so bad if you laying up with white bae, right? And if you complaining about it, like, hey, white bae, white supremacy is so bad. Like, but then on the other hand, it's like, well, do you think that that's how the conversations really go down? You know, it's kind of like, to an extent, not giving black people the benefit of the doubt and saying that they're like, this is how the conversation goes down, when it's like, well, it could be a different thing. It could go down where it's like, maybe the white person is being really supportive of them. The non-black person is being really supportive of them. Perhaps they really, want to help them with the baggage that they come with as a black person in this country. But of course, for me, pro-black swirlers kind of get a side eye, because it's like, well, if you're pro-black, then you have to be pro-black woman if you are a pro-black man, and you have to be pro-black man if you're a pro-black woman, right? So it's like, well, you can't get to the promised land without the black woman and the black man. You got to have both of them to get to the promised land. If you don't have both of them in, your plan, you're going to get somewhere, but it won't be the promised land that you want to get to, unless you want to not really be involved with black people. Then that'd be, I guess, the promised land for you. And on the other hand, sometimes I feel like low-key, while these black people are talking about these situations, about how bad the system of white supremacy is, like, low-key, I think your relationship sort of says that you low-key adhere to the system of white supremacy in a way. At least when it's like a non-black, a black person with a white person, right? Because it's like, okay, yeah, but you're with white supremacy, and you're going to end up having a half black, half white kid, possibly, and you will experience, the benefits of having a white partner. So it's like you low-key sort of buy into white supremacy in a way. But let me get back to defending the pro-black swirlers, because this video is to defend them, but I do kind of want to put the other side in here too, so that that it's just, that there's more to the story, right? And I'll say with Tatiana Mercedes, she has dated, she's been in a long-term relationship with a black woman. As I mentioned, she's like bisexual or pansexual or whatever you want to call it. So that's just show at least some can, where it's not, it shows like, okay, it's not like, oh, you have like a total disdain for black people. It shows that you don't have that, which is good. And she has at least, tried to pursue relationships with black men. They don't seem to work out for her, though. And I think that may be an issue with her. And she has spoken about this in other videos as well, right? That she has on her page. I'll say that I think it's easier for black women to stay pro-black than black men to stay pro-black. And I think it's because of, the positions that we have for men and women within the movement. We look to, the men to lead the movement. So I think as a leader, I think it's especially important to set the tone, right? Because as a leader, you do set the tone. So the tone that you want to set is that, oh, black love, right? Well, I think for black females, they aren't looked to be the leader of the movement. So it's a little bit different, right? So I think it may be a little bit easier for her to be pro-black versus the guy to be pro-black, because of the pressure that's put on, you know, the black men to lead the movement, right? You know. And one more thing, we have to be very clear about what we want from the movements that we have, right? Do we want to gain white acceptance, white approval, you know, assimilate into whiteness, or do we want to kind of like liberate ourselves from whiteness? And I think we really have to be clear about that, because if our end goal is to liberate ourselves from whiteness, then I do think that, you know, it might not be the best idea to have like a white partner, right? And also create children that will help perpetuate colorism, right? And thus creating this dynamic where, especially when it comes to black men dating outside the community, it becomes like really controversial, and then black women become resentful, and then it causes some black women to swirl and go outside the community, and then we create this whole like biracial, you know, population who will come back into the community for some reason or another, because the black folks want to bring them back into the community who had them outside of the community, and then they'll come back and perpetuate colorism, right? So we have to be really careful, right? So I think there are some exceptions to the rule, but I think as a rule of thumb, right, I think non-blacks, you know, pro-black swirlers, as a rule of thumb, I'll say no, but I'll say that perhaps there are some exceptions to the rule, you know. So that's all I got. What you got? Let me know in the comment section. Peace.